So, Sam, thank you so much for joining me to chat about your memoir, Waypoints. So it's super interesting in that you've kind of combined hiking the West Highland Way with your journey into acting. So to start with, I want to know, what is your relationship like now with pitching tents in the dark after a long hike?
After drinking a couple of whiskeys. Yeah, I did on the first day. I hiked about 25 miles and made my way to the shore of Loch Lomond, and that was going to be my first night's pitch. But obviously it's Scotland. It was the night before Halloween, and the weather was typically Scottish and dreich. It had been raining non-stop. I quite happily pitched a tent in the dark. Couldn't find my head torch, couldn't find any of that, so I used my phone light, but I managed it. Actually, it didn't fall down in the night. So I did feel like I was a mountain man. I was out there in the wilderness when really I was only about 20 miles from home.
And you decided to not camp the next night.
So the whole idea of the journey was, sort of this very solitary one. I wanted to get back to nature and really immerse myself in the walk. And what happened on day 2 was, completely drenched. It was a very difficult part of the hike. It just took me a lot longer than I thought. And night fell, and I was in the pitch dark. And luckily met another walker called Graham, who I talk about in the book. And he and I walked together and we sort of supported each other. We talked about our love for hiking, about whiskey, about mountains, absolutely anything to get us through the hike. But by the end of that day, I fell through the door of a small hotel on the shores of Loch Lomond and decided that I needed to either do something different, lose all my gear and do the walk without all the gear, or maybe give up. So it really was a tough decision, but yeah, I'm glad that I decided to dump all my gear on the side of the road.
And where do you think that kind of drive and determination comes from that, made you carry on that walk, but also in life?
It was the next morning. I woke up pretty stiff and sore, and I thought, you know what, this journey, this hike was about the enjoyment, about me enjoying the country that I'm in, enjoying Scotland. So I thought I needed to approach it a different way. But I suppose being adaptable is important. And allowing the journey, the hike, to influence you as opposed to sort of trying to assert myself on it. And that might be a sort of a slight metaphor for my life as well. Being an actor, you have to adapt and you have to be determined, you have to be pretty thick-skinned. So I guess there's that, and maybe being stubborn as well, or stupid.
And what was it like being in something for almost 10 years with Outlander in an industry that does have so much kind of uncertainty and is always changing? All
of my experiences, growing up being a jobbing actor, really have influenced and I guess shaped me. But I'm now in this job. I've been on Outlander for almost a decade, and I feel very fortunate. It's allowed me to go back to Scotland, back to my homeland, and rediscover Scotland as well, and the beauty it has there. And obviously been a great journey playing Jamie Fraser as well.
And has it sort of become a family on something, staying together for so long?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we started 8 years ago, myself, my co-stars, especially my co-star Caitriona Balfe, who's a magnificent actress and a great friend now. She's almost like my sister, and we've grown up together. We've had all these amazing experiences, but all the cast, and crew as well. We're very, very close. It is like a big family, and it's created relationships that you never thought you would have. I have now this great relationship with Graham McTavish, who played my uncle in the show, and thankfully I killed him. But he and I have created a book series and a TV show as well. So yeah, a lot has come out of Outlander.
Yeah. And what was it like in the casting process when you first met Caitriona, who plays Claire?
Yeah, it was I was very fortunate. For me, the casting process was pretty quick, and I was cast in this show that I didn't really know much about, and I was lucky to be part of the chemistry reads with other actresses, and they were looking for the actress to play Claire Beecham in the show, and they auditioned a lot of amazing actresses, and they still couldn't decide. And it was really close to us actually starting to shoot. I think 2 weeks out, they found Caitriona, and I remember her audition. It was she was brilliant. It was a very physical piece. It was an argument between Jamie Fraser and Claire. And I remember we actually got very physical with each other. And at some point, I think I had her in a bear hug, and I could see how extremely angry she was with me. But I think that's it. You say, what is chemistry? And I think that the point is the chemistry was that we were just in the moment with each other. You
also write that you quite liked fantasy as a teenager. Now you're obviously in a historical fantasy show. So as a teenager, what sort of things were you attracted to?
Yeah, I start the book off, there's a small quote there from Tolkien, and obviously my family were big fans. My brother was named after an elf from Lord of the Rings. And not only that, I grew up in the grounds of a castle in Scotland, a derelict castle. So I think that fantasy element, I imagined myself as Robert the Bruce or, King Arthur. All these things, these were great influences to me growing up. And I still am desperate to be an elf or a dwarf. So if the Rings of Power are still casting, I'm available. I've even got a ginger wig if they're interested.
I can imagine you as an elf.
Thank you. Well, I may have had some prosthetics done at some point. You might see in future.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that's very exciting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
And you say that the kind of the body image that is expected of actors doesn't just affect women; it also affects men, and did affect you.
Yeah.
So, what sort of things were you putting your body through in the kind of years where you sort of thought, I must look this certain way?
I very much felt the pressure of, having to have a certain body type. And early on, I didn't really know what I was doing, so I would literally starve myself and, force myself to do, crazy amounts of cardio and just sort of lean down as much as I could, which, looking back on it now, it really wasn't very healthy. But it's been a good process for me, to then educate myself about a healthy lifestyle. And that's why I created My Peak Challenge, which is my charity fitness platform, where we give people access to information, and it's not just about fitness, but it's also about mental health as well.
And through your kind of charitable work, you give to so many different causes. How did you decide who to give to, and are there any that have been sort of particularly close to you? We do. We choose a different charity each year, and we sort of put a spotlight on them. We've worked with about 5 or 6 charities now, and I think we've raised about $7 million for charity. From the very beginning, I supported Blood Cancer UK, and I haven't been affected by blood cancer, but cancer in all forms, and it's definitely hit my family pretty hard. And most recently, MND, a motor neuron disease, a member of our family, sadly was affected by this. So it's I would love to support them, and there are just so many, as you say. So it would be great to be able to do more. Yeah. And with family, you write in the book the moment where you met your dad as an adult. He wasn't in your life for, any time that you could remember.
Yeah.
So what was that moment like, meeting him for the first time?
He was just not there. He was very absent, in my life. I knew nothing about him, really. So for me to go and see him in Canada was a really, really interesting experience. And partly for an actor, part of my acting brain was like, oh, I'm going to use this and discover more about myself. But the other part of me, I guess the child in me was pretty anxious. But it was odd, I think a man that has no influence in my life. I remember I was walking next to him and I realized we had the same movement pattern, the same gait, the same step. And I thought that was really intriguing and also quite unsettling.
And is that something that you think you were sort of able to process by sort of, obviously you experienced it with your brother, but also writing it in the book and thinking it through?
Absolutely. The book is quite possibly a way for me to sort of put it to rest. I think, there's been a part of me that's sort of not wanted to be him or emulate him. But also, to accept him and accept that he has been a part of my life despite not being there. So, yeah, I think it is some sort of therapy, the book.
You actually mentioned that Jamie Fraser playing him is almost a sort of therapy in a way. Why is that?
Well, it's very interesting at the moment because, this character, Jamie Fraser, has a son that he cannot be a father to, and there's this sort of unrequited love there where he's unable to father him and be close to him. So that is in a sort of mixed or reversed role there. But Jamie has been through so much, and I think as an actor, you know, any role is kind of interesting because you have to put yourself into it even a little bit. And I think, you know, acting is maybe possibly slightly therapy. You know, you get to live all of these dark or crazy emotions, and then you get to go home at night and curl up in your own bed. So it's a pretty amazing job.
Yeah. And so you've now hiked the West Highland Way. You must have some advice that you would pass on to anyone else who's thinking of trying it.
Right.
What would be your top tips?
I would say don't do what I did. Read the book and find out. But all of us have something we've always wanted to do. Maybe it's on your doorstep and you've always thought, oh, I'll do it sometime. But I guess I'm just trying to encourage people to just, you know, give it a go, and it can be very rewarding.